I understand our fiscal dynamics in this country, as do all members of Congress. And I also understand that we have to make priority determinations. But I know the good that the legal services program does in this nation, and I'll be specific about Florida. In an article in today's newspapers in Florida, discussion is ongoing regarding the fact that these cuts are to take place and that legal services are going to have to put people out of work. There are 400 legal services employees in Florida, and according to the cuts as proposed, 24 of them will lose their jobs. Florida, as many states in the nation, but I specifically know about Florida, does an incredible amount of pro bono work through members of the Florida Bar. The Florida Bar also has a foundation, and it, along with some state funds, which I might add were also out of the state budget, legal services were cut insofar as what the state offers in this arena. And a proposal which I don't have strong feelings about as a member of the bar. Our dues are $265, and they've been that way for a very long time. And a proposal to come up with an additional $100 per member is being discussed on both sides, people for and against it. But some of those funds would doubtless help the foundation, which is nearly deplete because of its support of legal services. So I'd like to know how you all came to that determination, and more important than even that issue, or as important as that issue. All of us know that millions of Americans live in coastal regions, and we know that storm surge and the rise in sea level increase the likelihood of coastal flooding. Yet the committee abandoned research in efforts that I believe that Americans greatly need. Am I correct that the cut represents a 24% decrease from 2014, and am I correct that it is more than a third, or 37%, of difference between the administration's request? And I hesitate to get too far into the weeds on this business about climate. One of my colleagues in the United States Senate has set off a good deal of controversy regarding his comments, part of which he's walked back, regarding climate. As a person that has been born and raised in Florida and witnessing the deterioration of the coast, witnessing substantial increases in flooding as late as this past weekend in Miami Beach, Hollywood, Florida, countless other places where we experience this rather substantial increase. I don't know whether it's the moon or the mountain or what's causing it, and I'm not about the business of trying to get into any discussion about whether humans or anybody else caused it. The fact is it's happening. And the fact is that your committee cut the research in this arena, and I'd like to know why. The problem that I have and will continue to have, and while I'm appreciative of what you've done with NOAA, if I were on the committee, I probably, not out of any parochial interest, but because I believe it's important, particularly in the environment we're in with Russia and China, especially Russia now having said that at the end of 2020, we won't be able to use their rockets, and they're inclined, it seems, to not want to go forward with the efforts that some in the world thought that were cooperative with the undertakings ongoing there. But I come down to just the fact alone that a lot of poor people can't afford lawyers, and a lot of poor people need lawyers. And therefore, I would have argued somewhere that I could find funds to come out of other areas of commerce and justice to ensure that legal services would be fully funded. And I appreciate where you're coming from, Mr. Fatah. I've seen that same dance. But in the environment that we're in, headed into the 2014 elections, I'm not sure that dance is going to stand up to the tunes that have been played previously. So I have an ongoing concern there. I can't express to you, the two of you and anyone, how important the coastlines of the United States of America are, and not just Florida, but the entirety of our coastlines. And I defy anybody to tell me that any of them are being built up in any substantial way. When I flew out of Fort Lauderdale today, I looked over. I was on the left side and able to see probably as much as I would look north, almost all the way past Pompano Beach. And it's amazing how many times I've looked there and how much there has been a diminution of soil on the ocean in spite of all of our efforts. And I'm not kidding you, for all the people, and I'll tell my Senate friend, he evidently doesn't live in Miami anymore, because all he has to do is be there, and he will see the flooding that takes place in an area that he represents. Now, I don't know how it got caused, but it's happening. And that happening needs to be abated, and the only way I know that we can do it is with the kinds of things that you all have done in research and in other areas. And so I made my statement, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.